Hello and welcome to yet another episode of our exclusive Fireside chat on the topic Opening Avenues for Higher Earning for Blue Collar Workers. Today, we'll discuss the major concern of frontline workers, the significance of technology, and the role of organizations in supporting gig workers. My guest for this exclusive chat is Mr. Ganesh Subramanian, Chief Human Resource Officer, More Retail. Welcome to the show, Ganesh. How are you doing?
Very well, and I'm delighted to be here. Thanks, Abid, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much. My next guest is Mr. Nilav Kapoor, Chief Business Officer of Workplace Fulfillment Better Place. Welcome to the show, Nilav.
Thank you. Thanks, Abid. Thanks for the introduction and having me here. I think it's a very important and extremely relevant topic. In fact, if you look at today, the blue collar workers, they are like frontline workers for us. For a lot of organizations, they are the face of the organization and offering. So I think it's very important for us to start focusing on their earnings, benefit, and well-being. So look forward to a very insightful discussion.
Yes, and I am looking forward to hosting both of you, asking more good questions and getting some insights for sure. So thank you once again for joining. And with your permission, I would like to start this conversation. And my first question is for Ganesh. So Ganesh, I would like to understand with a very basic question, how are the blue and gray collar markets have performed so far? And how is the year looking ahead? What are your thoughts?
Okay. I think there are two important macroeconomic trends that have a big impact on the blue collar and gig employee population. The first one is the economic progression of countries to move to tertiary occupations. As countries develop and progress, you have a larger percentage of the population working in the tertiary sector. Just to give an example, only 3% of the American population is involved in agriculture because it's largely digital automated. So you will find that in India, more and more people are getting into services and tertiary occupations. I think that's a larger macroeconomic trend that's happening. The second one is the rise of the gig economy. And there are multiple reasons contributing to this. So let me give an example from retail. So we did a study of customers in North Karnataka. And very interestingly, almost 80% of the customers do shopping both in offline and online formats. The use cases are different, but they shop both online and offline. A very small percentage, only 12%, shop purely online, and a very small percentage shop purely offline, which means the future of retail, and I can even extend it to other functions, is actually omni. Depending on the use case, people will gravitate towards different ways of buying and consuming stuff. What does it mean for the gig economy? There is going to be an exponential growth in the number of gig workers and blue collar employees needed, especially and more so in the services sector. I think it's very, very good. I think it just provides a great opportunity for people to enter the formal workforce and then move up and on in their career.
Thank you so much for highlighting great details about the shopping of online and offline and how macroeconomic will definitely help. So coming to you, Nilav, we all are talking about gig workers. We all are talking about skilling and why it is important, because skilling is one thing that is keeping the CLOs, CHROs, and CEOs awake. Because if they are not skilled, they'll leave the job. If they are not skilled, companies will ask them to leave. I would like to ask you, when we talk about skilling, how can digital training empower blue collar workers? I have seen organizations are very bullish about digital training. And how do you think that this will pave the way for them to expand their horizons in the gig world?
Yeah, I agree. I think 2 or 3 points very clearly emerge in what you're also trying to share here. One, the need for skilling. it's obviously while there's a significant amount of supply, there is a dearth of skill supply or supply ready to go on the job, and tax and external environment based asks are reducing every day. So definitely giving CHRO sleepless nights. The other one also equally important, which Ganesh touched upon, was that if you look at from the gig workers per se, they are perhaps not in the formal workforce. And this becomes a stepping stone or an entry for them to get into the formal space and then chart their career journey. And if you try and look at these three aspects, the need of training and skilling was always there, but it becomes far more important and prevalent in the current scenario. So what I'll do is I'll try and touch about it in a brief 2 to 3 minutes. What we have in fact seen, if I try and give some context, is in the post-geo world, we saw decent democratization of technology. And we saw that this also increased the consumption of learning and content by workers. And that is the one which has fueled this need of skilling by both workers and employers. And this form of learning is not formal. It's not your conventional formal learning. In fact, there are new terminologies which have come around with it, like bite-sized learning or micro learning, which is there only for 10 minutes or 8 minutes. I will try and look at it broadly in 3 areas that it's being addressed today. One is, the first training or learning you get at the workplace, which is for onboarding or say training a fresher to ensure that they are job ready. The other one is just-in-time learning. Earlier, what used to happen is there used to be in the conventional workplace setup, there's a lot of it that you can learn from a buddy or a mentor. But in lean workplaces or in distributed setups, which is perhaps where a delivery partner is going to a customer and he's the only interface, there is nobody to learn from. So there is a need coming up for just-in-time learning, which is also called performance support learning in the form of ready reckoners or help desks. And the other one is the more comprehensive one, to enhance skills and try and provide competence so that a career journey can be charted. So the first two are being very actively used today by employers. And there are clear business reasons behind it. It reduces the time for the employee to be job ready. It lowers my investment cost. You don't need training infrastructure. You don't need physical setups. And it also enhances the hiring capability. There are a lot of times employer is able to, if they have a very strong skilling platform, they are able to hire an unskilled or a semi-skilled worker because they can try and train them on the go. We also have a skilling solution on our platform. And we have also seen certain examples in both of these spaces, the onboarding or JIT learning. So for example, in onboarding, in the delivery space, we have one of the larger food tech players who are taking our solution. They in a month hire between 40,000 to, in a peak period, 100,000 delivery partners. And their task is to try and make them work ready as simple as possible. But there are certain parts of skilling which is important before they are job ready. For example, customer orientation, using the app or navigating the app, interacting with the restaurant partner or trying to do basic level of problem solving. So the onboarding solution that they have ensures that the person does not even need to go at the hub. They can chart their own journey, be ready based on the learning that is provided to them on the mobile. Once they are assessed, they are ready to go and start serving orders. Similarly, in the JIT space also, while there is no solution to having a buddy or a friend to help you, we have seen how learning is able to and skilling is able to supplement that. So we have a client who is in the QSR space. They use our app to ensure that this person who's responsible for packing, because the packed meal is the one that will go to the client in the end, is able to ensure that the proper precautions are taken, in case they are packing a perishable or they are packing an item with meat. So there are these cases which are providing clients and workers decent hiring opportunities and an opportunity to scale. And there are more immediate solutions, business oriented solutions. But the third one I think is far more far reaching, and it's the one which is a more comprehensive solution where you provide an opportunity to upskill or cross skill. And this is also something which can help companies differentiate. In fact, I was going through a Fireside chat hosted by you, where there was a company which was saying that today they don't look at meat cutters or butchers as butchers. They are trying to look at them as meat artists. And they have a very strong skilling platform, which helps them differentiate. And in the same way, they are able to upscale these workers to the next level. So a worker with the right level of competence and skills is more difficult to replace, has higher earning potential. There are examples of cross-skilling where we are seeing delivery workers moving to retail stores. They get into more formal employments or more stable employments with the same employer. So it's uh, a, a meat delivery app, for example, who has both meat cutters or delivery boys, whom, if they show the right customer orientation, also find a space in the storefront or for store sales. So similarly, cross-selling is also helping to increase their earning potential, like a delivery worker working with fintech companies in merchant onboarding. So what we are seeing is there are these new career paths which are emerging. They are providing both opportunities to provide scale, enhance hiring possibilities, and also higher earning with more stable work options.
So stable work options and skilling them is definitely one of the key. Uh, so Ganesh, if you will leave your employees independent, they will definitely grow. So I need to ask you, what can be done and undone to make the frontline workers more independent? What do you think?
So it's a great question, Abed. I think there are two principles I would apply here. Principle number one is care, and principle number two is grow. And Nilab spoke extensively about grow. So let me start with care, because I think that's the foundation. I think organizations need to care for their team members, whether they are gig, blue collar, off role, on role. I think the element of care is very, very important. And I think it's equally important to get into the granular details of what care means. One of the people metrics, and we have 12,000 odd front end employees in our stores across 900 stores. One of the people metrics that we regularly track and monitor and scrutinize is something called a weekly of adherence. Now, what does it mean? Does it mean adherence to giving a weekly off? No. That's obviously mandated as per law, and we give a weekly off. It actually measures whether we give weekly off on the day that we promise to give a weekly off on, right? And the predictability of your schedule matters a lot to a front-end associate who has to manage, they work 6 days a week, they need to manage multiple engagements, and a predictability of a work schedule is a very, very important determinant. And we have seen very distinct correlation between a simple people metric like weekly of adherence and monthly attrition. So this is a small example of why care is important. The second example on care that I do want to mention is on safety, right? I mean, we all know about the road statistics in our country, and a large number of people commute by bicycles or motorbikes or public transport, and their commute can be a lot safer if they follow a few simple guidelines. What's the organization going to do on making its gig employees more secure, more safe, right? And all of it comes under the umbrella of care. The second principle, which is very important, is grow. We need to enable growth of our employees, including gig employees. And there are multiple ways to do it. But the starting point is to have a mindset, a philosophy that, hey, your leaders of the future are currently in the stores doing delivery, right? We have a program called Spark, and almost 65% of our store managers have joined us as customer service associates in a store. And this program provides a lot of inputs in a phased manner, and looks at career progression of the store employees in a phased manner, from a associate to a supervisor to a duty manager to a store manager and so on. And we think that's one of the key reasons why our store attrition levels are half the industry average. The same philosophy should be applied to gig workers, right? As we expand our Omni network, we will have a lot of delivery partners. And I can't talk about the exact numbers, but we will have a large number of delivery partners. How is it as an organization we're going to implement the principles of care and grow for these delivery partners? I think that's the key question. And probably there's a question coming up next in which I'll delve more into it.
If I can sum up your answer, if you will care, they'll grow, right?
Yeah, very nicely put.
So when it comes to caring, I'll come back to Nilab. Nilab, appreciation is good, caring is good, but I think Satya Nadella, I was just reading somewhere in the morning, he sums up everything in one line. Appreciation, care, empathy will not pay their EMIs.
I got logged off, Abid, so I could not hear.
Sorry, can you hear me? So I'll come again.
Yeah.
So Ganesh was mentioning about care, and I said if organizations will care, the employees will grow. I was reading something.
Yeah, I heard that.
Morning. Satya Nadella mentioned that empathy, appreciation, everything is good, but these things will not pay their mortgage loans or EMIs.
Agreed.
Right? Everything comes down to cash or earnings.
Agreed.
And when you talk about the frontline workers, they have limited earnings, and that's a major concern for these frontline workers. So what do you think, what can be done to handle this drought in the coming years? Because why I'm asking this question right now, after the crisis, we have seen how companies have come up and taken care of their employees, especially gig employees, and treating them at par with the white collar employees. So how do you think the gap will fulfill, the drought will be clear? How do you think we can do that?
Agreed. Yeah, I think Satya Nadella was more talking about it from a white collar context. Here it would become more important beyond the AMIs to how to fund child's education or take care of basic things like healthcare or parents' well-being, stuff like that. And then the other ones come. Ganesh gave a very interesting example of first principle thinking in terms of building an ecosystem for anybody, essentially for gig workers also, around care and growth. Here also, I think we need to do something similar. Try and understand what are the challenges which are hampering it and see if any opportunities emerge from there. So what I see is there are essentially three challenges which hamper or hinder the growth of earning, or which has been doing till now. One is structural. There is a government defined minimum wage, which at time becomes the only wage or the maximum wage, which is to be paid to the workers. But the other two ones are more important and more business oriented. One is variability of demand. So what we see, if you go to a retail store, essentially I'm talking about a fashion outlet, in the afternoon or during the day, you will find it's nearly empty and it feels overstaffed at that point of time. Go to the same fashion store in the evening, you will find it's completely packed and it seems understaffed. So what we are seeing here is that organization requires resources at a certain time. For them, the peak time is in the evening or during a high season, but they end up deploying them during slack time also. And it's clearly an inefficient way of resource allocation that somehow hampers productivity and in the same way hampers earning capability also. The other important business-oriented aspect would be demand-supply mismatch. We hear a lot about supply crunch of late, especially related to gig and certain frontline workers. But if you go deeper into it, you would find there is a bigger supply crunch in specific skills or skill sets required from frontline workers. Our formal education system is largely academic or grade oriented. There is nothing in terms of vocation or job oriented training. So what happens is the worker is not able to create the right moat to demand higher wages. How do the employers try and solve for it? they invest in training the worker, but with productivity which will come, further in the timeline, and with high level of attrition, they start looking at it as a cost instead of an investment, and some part of that cost is passed on to the worker. Now, looking at these two challenges, we can try and address them in a couple of ways. If I look at variability of demand, at Better Place Select, I'll give you an example. We offer a tech platform. What does it try to do is, it tries to look at specific opportunities of, say, these peak hours. Let's take the same retail example. I, as an employer, can keep 40 or 50% of my workforce as long as I'm able to fulfill my clients' my end consumers' demand in the evenings. So there is a specific task or slot rate demand that is available. We have been working on a platform which uses matchmaking and other capabilities to try and fit into those tasks, based on the availability or the interest of the worker. The employer's ask is pretty simple. They want to hire resources for specific timings or tasks or slots. So the platform that we are working on attempts to enable this matchmaking. And in turn, it is able to provide the worker visibility on the earning potential. So I do 4 slots in the evening, or I work with this retail chain for a week. I have a specific earning potential and I can enhance it. So largely being a worker-oriented platform from that perspective, what we have seen is that workers are able to find and matchmake opportunities which enhances their earning per hour. And that's the metric that we try and track by 20 to 30%. So this is one way of addressing the variability of demand. I'm sure other solutions will also emerge, but the challenge is important to note. On the other one, which is the supply demand skill set, now this is a larger problem and it's been talked about in different forums, and perhaps I'll be a bit repetitive, but I'll try and address it differently. This definitely requires efforts from different stakeholders, workers, potential employers, the entire education system, government, quasi-government agencies. What we have done is we have done it very beautifully. We have on our platform at A Better Place, we have identified roles which require these special skills. Like, for example, I was talking about a retail role. There are roles in beauty or customer care. Platform not only provides this opportunity, but also provides tools to skill these workers so that they are able to cross the entry barrier and aspire for those roles. Some of them are created by us. Many of them are created by employers, and they go for the larger segment of the entire pool that is available on our platform. For example, employers have certain courses on our platform or are planning to build certain courses in the beauty segment, providing information on different skin types, different kind of solutions that are available, categorizing different beauty products that are available, basic tips and tricks. If even somebody from the logistics or sales is aspiring to get into beauty because it's a specialized skill, they can go through these chain of courses, get themselves assessed, and it helps them find the right opportunity. So this is an example of a multi-pronged approach I'm talking about, based on a strong tech stack, which can help build upon and solve for these problems. Where we are currently, I think we're not even halfway there, but we have seen decent recognition by industry and employers on both the need for better resource utilization and, coupled with, more importantly, providing the worker opportunity to learn and earn more. Adoption of technology in this way, I think, can definitely help find the right solutions.
Thank you so much. Yes, we all believe that technology will help us to find the right solutions. Coming back to Ganesh, and I'll repeat what I mentioned, how organizations have become extremely supportive of frontline workers. So Ganesh, can you mention, being a CHRO, leading one of the famous retail chain in India, what are the key things to be done by the companies that can open multiple avenues for the upliftment of gig workers?
Okay. Let me start by saying the principles that I mentioned of care and grow will apply here as well, and I will spotlight on each one of them. We need to recognize that each person has a lot of latent ambition in him to up his standard of living, to improve on his career, right? Organizations will need to enable the entire process. So let me give an example. So we launched a digital learning platform around a year back. And one of the things that we did was we got a lot of standard courses and made them available to our entire front-end organization. And we were pleasantly surprised by the kind of uptake of those front-end courses. The courses on Excel, decision making, or PPTs. We had a lot of associates doing those courses. So we think only an associate at a store in a remote location will want to do only X kind of courses. I think that assumption is probably wrong. Their aspirations are much bigger than what they are currently doing. And provided an opportunity, and Nilab spoke about it, provided an opportunity, I think people will just grab and run with it. So what do we need to do as organizations? Enable the learning and the growth process. And the beauty is there are tons of digital technologies available, and I think Better Place also has a very good solution that actually enable employee development and growth. Right. So make it available. The other point is a lot of gig workers, front-end employees don't have access to a university education. A university education is very important, and we've all seen the benefits of that. And a lot of people, because of a variety of reasons, financial, familial, etc., are not able to complete a university program. How nice it would be if companies working in a larger ecosystem are able to provide a university degree to people that are actually willing to invest. And this all can be done digitally. We also need to recognize that there are cohorts, and Nilab spoke about variability of demand. It's a reality in our industry as well. We don't get much traffic during the afternoon, in spite of being a food and grocery retailer, right? The reality is variability of demand is a reality, but there are cohorts that are actually willing to work part-time. How do you get homemakers that actually want to work part-time during afternoons? How do you get college students that want to make some more money to work in the evenings? The important thing here is to go after certain cohorts which need that additional income. It's not a primary source of income, but it's an additional source of income. And I think there are many cohorts like that which can be targeted. And the last point, and it's probably a very business model led point. At the end of the day, a lot of organizations in this space operate on very, very thin margins, right? So if the cost of this group goes up substantially, profitability is going to be impacted, and I think it will result in a bigger loss for the ecosystem. So we need to recognize that there is going to be churn in this population. A small part of this population will grab the opportunities that come their way and will move up. In fact, I think it can be a bigger part of the population. Some part of the population will remain where they are because they want that stability. And there are certain cohorts that actually want this flexibility, and we should be fine with it. And that will ensure that the business model of a lot of organizations in this space is sustainable, because we all know the power of home delivery and omni, right? Across industries. It simplified all our lives as consumers, and it's important for the business model to be sustainable.
Thank you so much, Ganesh, for putting out and explaining it to us. I'll come back to Nilab for the last question. Nilab, you work with Better Place, and Better Place is all about technology and making the gig workers, and giving the gig workers all the latest technology that will help them in terms of hiring, in terms of onboarding, in terms of smooth procession of each and everything. So technology is changing the way we deal with our workforce, right? And it has to smoothen the rough road for the gig workers. What more can tech do to open multiple avenues for these workers going forward, 3 years down the line or 5 years down the line? What can tech do? Obviously, tech will define a lot of things, but if there is anything that key things, specific things that you want to mention.
Absolutely. I think it's important to understand where we are in the journey and what course do we want to chart. A couple of very interesting points which Ganesh said, which I would like to pick here, because that's important for us at Better Place or anybody who's trying to look at it as a technology platform for these workers or frontline workers would like to solve. One is trying to identify these cohorts, and trying to understand which is the right cohort in terms of matchmaking to provide employers a sustainable business solution. You can't just go after one self-serving task of increasing employer productivity or worker productivity or worker earning capacity till the time you don't try to do it in a sustainable way. So that means trying to provide stronger matchmaking solutions. But before I straight away jump to this, which I thought I'll pick it up later on, it seemed like a very interesting point. I will try to also use this opportunity to do a minor recap of where we are so that we understand what opportunities are emerging. If you look at Better Place today, where we are in terms of the tech solution or other platforms like us that they are providing, first attempt has been to digitize the entire journey of this worker, trying to give them complete visibility on earning potential, trying to provide them the best slot or time available, provide daily earning feedback, different kind of payout mechanisms, make this happen at scale by offering digital solutions in terms of onboarding, which I already touched upon. We also touched about it, skilling. If there, and you will see a lot of them are on the field. So they are not in the traditional workspaces. Their workspaces at the customer's desk or at a restaurant partner or at a beautician's. So trying to provide mobile-based solutions, to keep track of their time and their tasks. For the employers, trying to provide solutions which are able to offer mobile-based attendance tracking solutions. So that's kind of the entire journey, which has got automated and digitized. It helps operate at scale, helps both parties give decent visibility, which is important, and also the future steps. Other important thing that has happened, I think I want to focus a bit on this here. If you look at job discovery, from our side, traditional white collar space for the past 2 decades, it's dominated by job boards or its likes, with LinkedIn taking a new lead. But we did this research 2 to 3 years back that how is it happening in the blue collar arena or blue collar ecosystem, and it was pretty interesting. A majority of it was still hinged on friends and families. It was largely referral based. Whatever attempts that they were doing, and I think it was sub 20-25%, if I remember correctly, through placement agents was not that fruitful. In fact, there was decent amount of exploitation which was there. If you try and look at it from there, where we are in these last 2 years, we have today blue collar specific job discovery platforms or job boards. For example, we have a platform called Rocket, which is trying to approach job matchmaking from a blue collar perspective, which means we don't have a resume, we go for a profile, we try and go hyper local in offering them jobs. And because we are trying to match it on very specific skill nuances, we use a lot of MI or AL to understand, what are the kind of jobs similar profiles got selected for, or what is the behavior of the candidate itself to recommend jobs, further enhanced by interaction with bots. So that entire ecosystem has changed, and we are not the only one who is doing it. There are large names like Apna, Work India, and Rocket, which have completely changed this job process. In fact, I have a couple of Uber rides that I have taken, and I have told them I work in the job industry. They will pick up one or the other name, and everybody has heard of these names. And I'm not talking about the top 6-7 cities only, across the country. That has completely transformed this entire thing. I see this getting further enhanced, both these aspects. We would say enhanced attendance solutions, because why this ecosystem is very complex. You need a very specialized ecosystem to try and make the same work for security guards or people who are working at different facilities. The payout structures change very fast in the gig ecosystem. So you would need technology solutions to enable employers to have those payout structures and simultaneously try and provide the visibility to gig workers. AI and ML and bots can definitely help in that, in these task-based jobs. So, and beyond this, I think in the end, I would just like to talk about two areas which are more like a dream. But if you will not be ambitious, then in this ecosystem, I think then we will not be able to be aspirational in your approach. One is access to formal credit. So why can't this ecosystem, and again, very ambitious when I'm saying it, aim for a credit card for this segment, or an option for salary advance, or other microcredit offerings. Now, this is largely going to get enabled if tech acts as a disruptor. You have enough access to big data, on earning potential, earning track record, past work history, on background verification that have happened very well. And this can be used to build predictive analytics to provide access to technology. Other point which I think Ganesh was talking about, a better working environment. I think it's important to ensure better standard of living, like housing, access to assets like e-bikes, insurance, health insurance. While when I'm saying it, this might seem like brick and mortar solutions, but tech again can help in acting like an aggregator, matching demand and supply, and then curating individual specific solutions and providing these workers best access to this kind of infrastructure based on their paying capacity and their potential.
Thank you so much. I think thank you both of you for highlighting different aspects and solving some of the questions that I have asked, some of the problems. I think there are two key takeaways from this conversation from my side. One, what Ganesh mentioned, that if you will take care, they'll definitely grow. That is one. And second, what Nila, you mentioned, the technology will solve all the problems today or going forward for sure. So thank you, gentlemen. It was lovely hosting both of you and interacting with you.
Thank you, Abid, for your time. Thanks, Ganesh.
Thanks for the invite. I love the conversation. Thank you.
It was a very insightful conversation for me also. Thanks a lot. Thank you.